it's Eric G from Around the House. Quick favor. If you're enjoying the show, the absolute best way you can support us is by leaving a quick review on your favorite podcast player. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, whatever you're listening to. It literally takes 30 seconds, and here's why it matters so much to us. Those reviews help new listeners discover the podcast. Tell the algorithms we're worth recommending, and give us the feedback we need to bring you even better episodes. More of the topics you love, and guests that actually move the needle for you. That helps us help you. It's as simple as that. So if the show's been useful, funny, or just made your day a little better, pop over right now, drop a star rating, and a couple of sentences. We'll be genuinely grateful. Thanks for being a part of the Around the House crew, and let's keep that conversation going.
Everybody stop what you're doing, please!
When it comes to remodeling and renovating your home, there is no better show on your radio. This is Around the House with Eric G.
Where's the hammer?
From your back fence to the sidewalk, Eric will tell you how to keep it all in tip-top shape while helping you save a buck while doing it. If you like DIY projects, it takes a lot of practice to get good at it, and Eric is here to guide the way.
Is it on the, go up on the other floor. Somebody go up there and stop the hammering.
All that and more on the fastest 2 hours of home improvement radio.
These are the wrong plans. These are the old plans. Oh!
Welcome to
Stop it!
Around the House with Eric G.
Welcome back to Around the House with Eric G. This is where we talk home improvement every single weekend. Thanks for joining us. We have Eddie Uyeta on the phone here from Uyeta Landscape. He is our resident outdoor expert. Welcome back to Around the House, buddy.
Hey, thanks a lot, Eric.
Well, let's talk a little bit outdoors again. And every time I get you on here, I'm learning something, and I hope everybody else is learning as well. And I wanted to talk this time about, you know, when somebody calls you up to kind of start the process, because there's always kind of that, the dance at the beginning where people don't know what to do, and they're calling you in as the expert. And
sure.
I thought we'd set this up a little bit because, you know, you're 3 hours away from me, so it's not like you're just going to pop down here and we're going to use my house as an example. So I sent you up some pictures, and so we have kind of a point of reference for a discussion today. But if I was to jump on the phone right now and give you a call and say, man, I got to do something because my yard's a mess, where do we start?
Sure. So, I mean, let's just back up a little bit and go back to, you know, how you found us in the first place. And so I know for us down here, it all starts with the phone call.
Sure.
So, but before you even got to the phone call, you know, how did you find someone, or how did you find us? You know, did you go to the internet and say Google landscape companies near me, which probably a lot of people do, and I do
Absolutely.
myself, you know, plumbers near me or roofers near me. And then, you know, you got to go into a little bit of research, because you can now. How many stars do they have? Read their reviews. You know, if they're all perfect, then, you know, there's something wrong with that. If they're all bad, there's something wrong with that.
Yep.
Right?
Oh,
so
man,
even
online reviews.
Even a good company's got to have a couple crappy ones just to make, you know.
There's always that person.
Yeah, it's just human nature that, you know, we're not perfect, and you know, out of 50 reviews, I'm going to have a couple of bad ones, and that's up to the consumer to figure out. Try to read between the lines, you know, who they really are.
No kidding.
And so you've done your research, and you narrowed it down to a couple of companies, and then that phone rings for us. So the experience should be when the phone rings and we answer the phone, we want to take you through an experience that, you know, no one else gives you. So it's a live person. It's not pre-recorded. You know, you're not going to get some dude driving down the road in his truck and can hear the freeway, you know, next to his phone, and you can barely hear him, you know.
Now, what do you want to do?
You know, that's right. So first off, you know, you're talking to a respected company that has, you know, some good processes, and we want to help you, you know, take your ideas, you know, for what you got to do as far as landscaping goes, you know, from the phone call to the final product.
There you go.
So, So
there you go.
So you get a live voice. You have Katie or one of the girls in the office, answer the phone and chit chat a little bit.
Yeah.
And we want to know if one of the first things we want to know is this a maintenance project or is it a construction project? Meaning, we just need a landscape maintenance plan set up for you guys so we can take care of your house. We pretty much do. We can't come out and do. Hey, I'm having a party tonight. Can you come mow my lawn? We ain't doing that.
Hey, I know it's Friday at 10 a.m., but I got people coming over tomorrow morning. Can somebody come out and weed all my stuff and get the lawn mowed for me? Yeah, really?
So when you say that, Eric, I just got to say politely, we're
not a good fit.
Our maintenance, our maintenance programs are set up to, serve you year round.
Yep.
and so sometimes we do those one-off things, and
sure.
From time to time we try to help out the best we can. But during the height of the season, when everyone's calling, I just can't come out and mow your lawn because you're having a party tonight.
That's what the kid down the street's for.
That's right. So and he needs a job because he's just sitting around now anyway, right?
Exactly. Get him off the Xbox or some money at him, have him come mow your lawn. Because
he's hardly going to school anymore because he's on whatever the computer he's going to school on, and whatever that may be. But
no question.
In all seriousness, so they usually people call in. They have someone that needs to have their place taken care of on a maintenance plan, and we're happy to go out and look around the property and see what their needs are. And then the other side is the design build side.
Yeah.
And so if somebody needs a new patio or like I'm looking at your house right now. So you got, a little fire pit. You got a couple of, 3-4 lawn chairs out there, and it's a start. But, you need to grade it. You need to get all the weeds out of there.
Oh yeah.
I don't know what's that telephone pole with a wire on it?
That's my temporary lights up out there. I put some, cause we came out there and literally, that whole backyard. Now I'm going to put these pictures up here on Facebook today so people can take a look at them and see what we're talking about. But my backyard when I moved in here a few months ago was literally 90% ivy. So it was up to the fire pit from the back forward to back in all English ivy all the way up to there. It was growing up the trees. It was literally an ivy mountain back there of stuff. And I didn't even know a lot of those rocks were back there because the ivy was growing over all of it. And we found lighting. I found, where somebody had actually taken 2 orange extension cords and buried them in the ground and were popping up back there for old lighting. I mean, just crazy stuff like that you see. So
crazy.
Yeah. So we got the ivy out of there. I got the poison ivy killed off that was back in there. It was actually poison oak. Got that a little bit that was back there. And then just wanted to get a fence up so we could kind of get some barriers and get stuff kind of figured out. And the pictures you're seeing is my fence partially done. But yeah, that's the project we've been working on.
Yeah, I see the new fence going out there. And those are probably all the suggestions that I would have, at least when I first initially come out. So phone call comes in, then we make an appointment. We understand, we try to get on the same page as far as what your needs are. And then one of our designers will go out to your house and, talk to you. It takes about an hour just for us to kind of get into your head about what you like to do or what your needs are and what you want your space to function as. Landscape design is just like building a house with rooms. And inside we have living rooms, dining rooms, and family rooms. On the outside, if your property is large enough, we kind of want to do the same thing. We want to have a room for the patio, room for the outdoor, fire pit, room for, volleyball and swimming pools or whatever it is. But we try to create rooms outside to give you, some interest. And areas that you can go. And I try to get into the client's head as much as I can, and I want them to tell me, what their needs are as far as, do they got kids, do they got pets, do they entertain? And that way, at least we can start to be on the same page about what to build.
Yeah.
Design is, the pie in the sky.
Yeah, no question.
And at the end, we have to figure out, what's going to fit your budget.
Yep.
and to see if we can't, do all the, everything on your wish list within the budget you have. And sometimes we have to phase it in, phase it out, but we try to give you all the options as best we can. So.
And budgets are huge. Is a big part of that process because I don't care how big the project. I would probably guess with you as well. I think my experience doing high-end projects, there's always a budget no matter what. I think it's one time I've had somebody go, "Oh, we're just going over the top. It's budget free," and it ended up not being budget free because there's always a budget.
There's always some. Yeah, exactly. It's not a blank check. And so I'm just trying to be realistic about things. And so, you can't, from the designer standpoint, we want to use the best of everything.
Sure.
And we can upscale, the crap out of it. But then if you can't afford it, or if it's not in the budget, well, don't design it that way.
Well, then you're just drawing pretty pictures that aren't going to translate into a project, right? Because
that's correct.
It doesn't. I mean, and it's funny because when you look at outdoor projects, and I'll even use a barbecue as a great example. You can go out and get a really nice Weber kettle for $150 that's got a top of the line features of the Weber kettle barbecues out there, and then you can turn around and spend $10,000 on a outdoor kitchen grill that's going to go in your outdoor kitchen. But they're both barbecues, and it's just depending on what that expectation is for that project.
That's correct, and then you hit it right there, expectations, and that's what we try to do is align expectations, and then whoever you have come out there, they should be a good fit, because sometimes it's not always about price, but you have to work with this person from the beginning of this project to the end, and so they may be a good fit price wise, but maybe their personality's not right, or we're not always on the same page, and so. At the end of the day, I always go with my gut feel. That guy was a little bit more expensive. He has a great idea. But you know what? It's okay. I'd rather pay a little bit more because I know this is going to be a good fit, and at the end, we'll have some good results.
Man, I saw this guy. That's a great example. I saw this guy this last week who was trying to come up with on one of the home improvement Facebook groups that I'm in, that I'm a moderator, and I felt so bad for this guy because he had went for the low bid, and he had a concrete walkway that went up to the front of his house that he had put together. And I felt so horrible for him because they poured the concrete, got the walkway done, and it was kind of a thick side. And I wouldn't have done it this way anyway, but it was kind of a mono pour type thing where it went over, wrapped over the old one. He poured it over the top. But it was like 18 inches on the one side of it, the way it looked. And it, almost needed a railing or something on there. Well, he got the low bid. The guy came in, poured it, didn't want to come back, came around. 3 hours later, he pulled the forms off.
Oh, 3 hours.
3 hours. So you could see how this all of a sudden looked like a Dr. Seuss book at this point, because everything there was more waves in the ocean in this thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, and he's like, "What do I do?" I'm like, well, first, you might be able to go in and cut it and clean it up a little bit, but you're going to have this face cut that's not going to look good. And I had to tell the guy, man, your low bid situation there, they didn't want to come back on day 2 to pull forms. That just cost you the project. And now it's going to cost you more because now you're going to have to pay to dispose of it once it's done. And sometimes people saving $100 can cost them way more than if they just got the right person in there to begin with.
Exactly, and that's just human nature. We all do it. I've done it myself. I go for the low dough deal. Backfires on you.
Oh yeah.
So it's cliche, but most of the time you do get what you pay for. So
it's very true.
I'd rather pay a little bit extra. Not overboard, but I'd rather pay a little bit extra for that expertise.
Yeah, no question.
So when I design a patio, for instance. I can give you the shape, and that's a nice shape, and it's going to function really well. It's going to flow really good. But now what are we going to make it out of? So here's the good, better, best. We can do it just a brushed concrete.
Yep.
Or we can go up to a stamped concrete with some colors.
Oh, that looks good.
Or we can go to a paver, right?
Yep.
A pavers, and I can put some nice, paver patterns on it. But that's a good, better, best. And, we got the shape of the patio now. What can we afford?
Yeah.
And,
good call.
And I mean, and we can do that with anything around there. Fencing, what kind of fencing do you want? How many plants do we want to put in here? How instantaneous do you want to look? But those are all things that we can adjust.
Yeah.
Once we got the main framework, figured out.
And I always tell people, and we talked about this in a previous time I had you on, but this is the most important part of creating that luxurious backyard is the planning start to begin with. And I really want to see people, if they've got that, builder backyard, or if they've got like mine where it was just completely, overgrown and had been just turned into forest almost after a decade of nobody taking care of it because it was a rental. You got to get that plan together, because there's nothing worse than having to do something twice.
Exactly. And doing something twice costs you twice. And we want to do it right the first time. And so I look at your backyard, and it was overgrown and everything else. And, one of the first things I would have done, just like you did, was you got to clear it first. It's so overgrown, I can't even see where the land is.
Yeah.
Until I can see the dirt, I can't figure out what to design or what, how the lay of the land is without it being cleared.
I found some massive rocks in there. I mean, there's one of them I call our V-dub out there, because it's about, probably weighs more than a Volkswagen Beetle sitting in the backyard out there. I mean, that's not get the small excavator and move it. That's getting the big one in there. But, and I also plan for my backyard, because on one side of the fence over there where I have my gate coming in, I made it where I can unbolt 2 of the fence posts. So I put down, Simpson brackets in the concrete. So when I need to move dirt around back there, I can bring anything in there I need. I created a 12-foot opening into my backyard that it comes off the neighbor's flag lot. So I can put a trailer back there. I can put a track hoe back there and do anything I need to do.
Yeah, you can drive a pickup through there. But those are the things that, forward thinkers, people that have been in the industry, will do for you, as long as you find that reputable, qualified company.
Yeah.
I mean, you're paying for their expertise, and so that's the way you need to vet these people out, by maybe 1, getting some referrals, maybe number 2, seeing some examples of their work, number 3, when they come to do their presentation, that they've got some other pictures or laptops with previous work or catalogs of what they can possibly use for materials, everything to let you know that these are all the possibilities during this design process.
Yeah, absolutely.
Once the design process is done, then you can go into the costing.
Exactly.
Now, one of the things I tell consumers is, in the landscape trade, this is the way I see it, is there's 2 ways to go about this design process. The first way is, if you want to bid apples to apples, you pretty much have to have an architectural design done by a designer or an architect.
No question.
Because when you have it done that way, everything is spelled out to the T. The scope of work, all the specifications, what size are the plants, how tall should they be, what's the material for the concrete, pavers, all those specs are written in there, so that you can take that and send it out to 10 contractors to have a bid on.
Yep.
If you're looking for a price to price kind of quote, that's the only way you're going to get apples to apples, because everyone's bidding from the same set of blueprints.
And that set of blueprints is the honesty meter for every contractor that's come to look at it, because it'll say, okay, this patio is made out of this mutual materials block, and this plant is here, that plant is here, this sprinkler system's going here. So things don't get missed.
Yeah, there's no gray area.
Yeah.
When we do a commercial building, a set of plans is given to a bunch of contractors, and they have to bid it the way it's spec'd out. That way, the owner knows that everyone's bidding on the same things, same materials, and there's no gray area. So
no question.
That's one way to do landscape design, landscape construction. Now, the way we work is we're design build. So
Sure.
anything that we design, we can install for you. Or if it's a sub trade, we can get that, person or that trade in there to get that done for you. I try to make it as turnkey as possible. I become the general. The GC is general contractor.
Yep.
For your landscape project, and I bring in the mason. I bring in the gas guy. I bring in the electrical people to get everything done for you, turnkey. Then again, you have to trust me that these conceptual plans that I draw and some sketches on the back of a napkin sometimes are going to turn out the way, we talked about, the way they're thinking, the pictures that I showed them. And so
Yep.
that's kind of the two different ways of approaching landscape design and its bidding process. At the end, you always have to feel comfortable with the person you're working with. And, 9 times out of 10, I can follow through on just about everything that I've done. I've done $100,000, $200,000 jobs, just with sketches.
Sure.
And working back and forth without having to do a design, a complete blueprinted design.
Well, that's the beauty when you're the design build, is that you don't have to go through. And I think it also creates plans that are a little more cost effective, because you understand as the designer kind of what has to happen to get from point A to point B. Because I've dealt with some landscape, designers that drew some really cool, pretty stuff, but how they wanted to have it done was kind of the most expensive way to do it, or the least efficient way to do it. And I've ran into that a couple times using people that way.
Yeah, sometimes it's not physically possible either. How does that driveway sit there in midair? The grading that you did for it leaves the end of the driveway hanging in the middle of the air.
Yeah.
How do you work
Your
with
elevation's so far off, it doesn't even, it makes zero sense.
Yeah. Yeah, so I try to say it wherever I can in part of that design process, because I don't have to spell everything out, because you're gonna trust us to let us build it for you. So
Yep.
I don't have to do a grading plan.
You've got the vision, how it's going to come together. And if something, when you get in there with the equipment, turns around, and maybe you'll have to tweak it here or there because something didn't pan out as expected.
Yeah, and then I've got to adjust for, we're digging along and there's an old oil tank or something in the ground. Now what do you do? It's in the way. Hopefully it's not some kind of architectural burial site. Either, we don't find bones or something.
Yeah.
A lot of
stuff
things
happens.
come up. That stuff happens, and we have to be, understanding that, this is an extra. If that does happen, we can't anticipate or see anything that's under the ground. I didn't bring my X-ray glasses today.
Yeah.
Sort of thing. So, but it's just a matter of being on the same page and have a good working relationship, because both of us, both sides want it to work out. And that's all we're here to do. Is, like I said before, take landscaping off your plate, and then when we're done, we left you with a better experience and an aesthetically pleasing space for you and your family to enjoy.
Yeah. So, like, when you go out and see that, maybe somebody sent you some pictures from the first discussion, and then you get out to the job site, basically into their house. Like with my house, for instance, you can walk in the backyard and you go, okay, you've got maybe 90% tree canopy over the top of you, which I do. I've got massive fir trees that are, 100 and something feet tall around me. And so I've got most tree canopy back there. So that's where I'm scratching my head on my yard, for instance, and going, that green grass, luscious yard is going to be a constant battle to try to keep grass going back there. And then for us to go back or the dogs to play on it or anything like that, it's going to be tough to keep that stuff looking good all the time.
And that's what that's what you're calling me in for. The experts are going to say, that there's so much canopy. You've got conifers here that are constantly making the soil acidic. Grass is going to be impossible to, grow here unless you want to be a slave to it every year by reseeding.
Oh yeah.
Let's go to a different alternative and work with Mother Nature, not fight it. Mother Nature always wins, and you can get by for a while, but how much money do you want to keep pouring into this thing?
Yeah, I'm not going to go out there and reseed that thing every spring just to try to keep it look good and have it tore up for months on end as I'm trying to bring it back every year. That to me is not practical.
That's what can happen. So if it's more like a moss garden back there, why don't we go with the moss garden and kind of dress it up as a moss garden in that section of the area where there's it's so dark that nothing really grows there anyway. And so, you take those cues from what the land gives you. The land gives you those big boulders and things. What can we use? How can we use that boulder? Maybe it's part of our entry now. Maybe it'll be a nice centerpiece, and we can work around it.
Yeah, I've got plenty more of those boulders, too, because they're kind of like icebergs. You see a little bit on the top, and I'm like, I'm going to move this out of the way to put a fence post. No, I'm not.
Yeah. No, this thing is like 10 feet by 10 feet, and that's just the top.
Exactly. And that's why I run into problems around here, because it's interesting in my area because, I'm in Lake Oswego, which for a lot of people across the country have no idea where I'm talking about. It's south of Portland, but it's a man-made lake that was built here for the big iron mill that actually built a lot of they mined the iron close here, and then they actually put it on these little donkey carts back in turn of the century and went into an iron mill where they made railroad, rails for the railroad. And so that's how they got the railroad out here.
I didn't know that was a man-made lake. I've lived up here in the Northwest all my life.
Yep. And there was a little tiny lake there, and they made it a big lake so they could have water year-round for the big iron mill there. So they had a big, huge iron mill, and the furnace is still standing because it's in a park. But that was a man-made lake, basically. So it's been controversial because it's the only lake that is a private lake in the whole state of Oregon because the property owners like me and others around here actually own part of the lake, and it's privately owned. That's been its own political battle that we're not going to discuss because we don't get into that in the show, but it's an interesting discussion. But a lot of this rock around here was dug up because they had to put a big they had the Chinese immigrants in here in the late 1800s digging these canals to feed the lake from the Tuolumne River. So it's interesting. So I've got a lot of fill dirt that is big stuff that was hauled off in around in different neighborhoods here to flatten this out. And that was
so they
120 years ago.
Yeah, a lot of regrading went on back then to do all that.
Yeah, so you can find crazy stuff, digging around sometimes around here. So yeah, it gets interesting. So
interesting. All right, good. So yeah, as you move forward, through this process, we got the design done now, and we got the pricing okay. It's just time for us to come in and start, building what we said we're going to do, and at the end, we hopefully, got you something that is really going to be functional and aesthetic and works with your family, so on and so forth. One of the things that before we get into all this design stuff is, if you can help the designer come out, you have Pinterest and you have, Google Images. Try to print out some pictures of the things that you like, that you would like to see in your backyard, and that would help the person coming out to kind of get more into your head about how you like things. English garden style, Japanese garden style. You like it informal, really formal, but all those things that we try to gather in that first hour of discovery.
Yeah.
And if you tear out pictures of Sunset Magazine, it doesn't matter. We just need to get into your head about what you like, what colors, what kind of plants.
Like my last house, we had a battle because I've got different soil types, and you know how that is in your area there as well. But my last house, the backyard you could have made clay pots out of the soil back there. As soon as it started raining, my backyard got to be even though it was on a slope and it was drained fairly well that way, it was a clay, muddy mess. Even though my grass was green and looking perfect, you would step through it, and after a day of northwest rain, you would track that mud around everywhere.
Yeah, it's all squishy. Yeah. And that's another thing that we have to think about up here a lot is, before we even think about laying in, that first blade of grass down there, we have to think about what goes underneath. And a lot of times it's proper drainage. And you have to slope everything to the drains. If you have a really clay area, like you said, French drains are probably going to be, something you should think about putting in before you put all that nice, cosmetic stuff on top of it. That dirt for a landscaper is the ground floor. It's the first floor.
Mm-hmm.
So if we don't do a good job building that first floor, that second floor, which is the patio, the plants, and everything else that goes on top of it, might be an issue just because it's not usable in the wintertime. You can't even walk across the lawn without getting muddy.
Yeah.
So on and so forth. The drainage goes in there.
That clay was so bad. That is one of those homes that I would have probably said, okay, I want to do a perimeter French drain, because the street was the lowest point in the front and the backyard was the highest. It would have been pretty easy just to do a French drain in there that drained out closer to the street. And in that neighborhood, I could actually do that because all the storm drains off of the gutters and stuff drained through the curb and went into the storm drain system there. So it would have been easy to do that and have it just naturally drain in the front. And I would have done a perimeter probably there and ran a couple crossway through the middle and brought in the new, 8 or 10 inches of topsoil and tried to keep it under control. Because, there was no way that I could have just thrown some, lime on the top of that and gone, oh, we're good. And some peat moss. That wasn't going to fix it.
Yeah. And another tip is around here, we use a lot, when we put in new turf or shrub beds where, drainage is an issue. I pretty much make it a standard now to use a really sandy soil mix because it drains really easily. If I have the luxury of being able to take out 8 to 10 inches of that clay soil and then put on top of it our free draining soil, it stays pretty firm all year round. It's the same philosophy that the golf courses uses. Everything they do, they sand it. They keep sanding it. Putting greens are all sand.
Yeah.
The grass keeps growing through it, but it's as firm as can be, and it drains well, and it just takes a lot of the problems away. So even in our shrub beds, you don't have to use that sandy stuff as much, but it's there. It drains really good. Plants are okay in it. You might have to water a little bit more, depending on how much sand that you use, but it stays firm year round.
Yeah,
and another thing, you should think about too is when you're doing all this thing, all these landscaping improvements, irrigation.
Oh man, for me that's huge.
I know it rains a lot here in the Pacific Northwest, but there's about a 3 to 4 month water deficit. Starting right about now, middle of June, all the way till the end of summer, and so that's also another investment that you should think about. Everything we do, is an investment, and it's going to bring the property value up. But irrigation is one of the things that, it sure makes life easy.
Exactly.
Because you invest in all these plants, and man, I don't want to come home at the end of the day and they've got to pull the hose all the way around the yard, with all these sprinklers going everywhere.
That is the key. And ironically, back in the, I'm going to take you back in the Wayback Machine here in the Northwest. I started out in the early 90s. My first kind of home improvement job was working for Ernst Hardware and Garden as their sprinkler designer, because I'd taken architectural design classes. So I was Rainbird trained in 1991, probably.
Oh, good for you. Good for you. And Rainbird's still around, so that's good for you.
So that's my background back there. So yeah, that's one of those things now. And what I think with yards too, and people have heard me talk about this on the show, but I've been using with my last house when I put the new system in here, I've been using that new ratio sprinkler timer that's all Bluetooth and it monitors the weather. That thing for smart homes, that saved me so much money last year at my house, because it'll sit there, you hook it up like any other normal. I had just one of the old, Toro ones that I'd replaced when I was in that house. And I put this in and I hooked it into my Bluetooth. Well, it looks every day at the weather. So it will sit there and go, hey, it rained half an inch yesterday. Mm-hmm. We're not going to water today. Or it'll say, hey, I was going to run the system this morning. Later on today, it's expecting an inch of rain, so we're not going to water. And the vice versa of that, it'll go, wow, it's going to be 95 today. We're going to put an extra, sprinkle over here. I mean, you put in soil type, you put in what you're growing, if it's a garden, if it's grass, and it'll sit there. If you've got clay soil like I did, it would run the sprinklers for like 5 to 7 minutes, stop them, let it soak in, and then run it again. So it would give it time to do that. It saved me a ton of water.
So I'll take one of those.
Yeah. It was awesome. It was awesome.
The technology is in everything now. We have smartphones, but now they have smart, controllers, smart irrigation controllers. So, but just like you said, you give it all the data, and then you can go as far as moisture meters now, and it just not only takes how much it rained yesterday, but it actually takes the moisture meter reading from the soil that the plants need.
Yeah.
It might have rained a foot over there, but did it really rain a foot at your house too?
Exactly.
I don't know.
Exactly.
And so it gets pretty sophisticated, and then that all comes from the agricultural industry where that's critical for growing crops. Those technologies kind of filtered their way into residential commercial projects. Now they got smart controllers that take care of all those things. I mean, you could be on vacation in Mexico, and you could reset your irrigation if you wanted to. And there's no reason why you should have to, but if you wanted to, play with it.
Well, for me, it was great because I'd have the kids jump out in the yard, be playing with the dogs, and I could turn the sprinklers on if I wanted to. So while I'm sitting there with my adult beverage, so it was pretty funny. You could really mess. Lawn sprinklers on. Hey,
And then the last other thing that I like about, that I like to have in my yard is, lighting.
Man, lighting is so key. That is one of my number one things that I can do around my house is really good exterior lighting.
Yeah, because it's just an extension of your living room, right?
Yeah.
So when the weather's still good and it's late into the fall, but it's still nice out when it's not raining, but you have some of that, I call it mood lighting, because we're not just talking about big halide, that lights up the whole backyard. We're talking about path lights, the up lights, the spotlights that highlight the different aspects of the garden back there. So.
These are not your Costco throw on the ground solar ones either that last you about 2 months before they end in your trash can. This is
they only light till about midnight or something.
Exactly.
They're like a dim candle or something. What the hell did I buy that for?
Yeah. I think everybody's seen those at least once and just looked at them and went, "Yeah, never again, never again."
Yeah. But, that's just an extension of your rooms at night. And then when up here, it gets dark, at 4:30 in the wintertime. And so, on nice nights, you can still enjoy the scenery, through the windows and what you've created out there. You don't even have to go out there because it's cold or whatever. But at least you can see the trees highlighted and, maybe there's spotlights on the particular fountain you got going out there.
Yeah.
It just adds that extension of those rooms.
Yeah, my lighting that I'm going to use here is, and I've got it here. I got it because they didn't want it at the other house, and so I took it with. So I've got a whole big box of the WAC lighting. That's the really good stuff that I got from my buddy Al Thomas up there at North Coast. And this is that nice stuff, and I love it because you can sit there and take the tree canopy, and they're LEDs and they're adjustable, so I can put it in the ground and they're going to hold up, but I can also adjust the beam width so I can make it spot and reach the top of those tree canopies and light them and just make things glow, which I love.
Exactly. And then I'm familiar with that brand. That's just one of the brands that I use, and it gives you so much flexibility. The LEDs make it pretty much maintenance free.
Yeah.
Back in the day with, incandescent and halogen, God, it was like, burning out. If you burned out one bulb, you'd add more power to the rest of the bulbs. And if you weren't on top of it, it'd start burning out bulbs because you got too much power going to the rest of the bulbs because you didn't replace the one bulb that got burnt out.
Yeah.
And so
you're
always
chasing going crazy.
Bulbs.
Yep.
Right. And so today, what the LEDs got is that they hardly use any power. You can leave them on all night. You can, use the photosensor to turn them on. You can turn them off at midnight when you don't need them anymore. But they're so much more maintenance free now, and it takes very little energy to run them. And like you said, you can highlight, those 50-foot conifer trees down to a little spotlight over your cocktail table or something out there.
Yeah, it's that's the difference when you see somebody's backyard, and I mean that is kind of what takes it from good to excellent is that lighting, because you could have a beautiful yard, but when you put that lighting in at night, that is that secret to get that high-end look. You could have a very affordable backyard design, but that money that you spend on putting good lighting in changes the world on how that looks.
Yeah, good lighting and well thought out design.
Yep.
Makes it look good. And I just don't like the plants. I like some of the building, the architecture. If I think it's classy or something. But I like columns. Sometimes I like the facades of houses. We're not going for the Vegas look or anything, but a little bit of the structure. It highlights the home. If you got a nice entry. Some nice wooden beams or something, or I take sometimes spotlights and I put them at the peak of the roof and I shine it down.
Yep.
So you got down lighting, up lighting, wall washes, path lighting. If you got water features, there's underwater lighting. You got lighting that goes around underneath the coping of pools.
Yep.
You got lighting for steps, and built-in steps, and lights are built into the steps.
And you could drop those lights into flush units in the concrete, so you've got the flush lit pucks kind of in the square that are in the deck. Deck of the concrete, and there's so many different lighting tricks that you can do out there. And even on the front of your house, it's also good security as well, because we talked about this last week as one of the subjects was home security, and it's just one of those things that when you go through, it's just amazing, because now you can take those kind of dark corners where somebody could be hiding around your house, and you've got them well lit. Someone who's got bad intentions is not going to be that comfortable there.
Exactly, and then the safety is the whole other aspect, But you combine safety with the aesthetics, with the lighting, and you're golden.
Yeah,
I mean it really makes for a safe, awesome looking place, and that lighting is kind of like you said, it's the icing on the cake.
It is,
as far as when you get that landscape project done.
So
it really looks cool.
That good plan and that lighting well installed and pulled off makes it all come together. For instance, here it just looks good. It's just one of those things that it's money to me.
It's simplify. I always simplify things. It's like baking a cake, right? It's got like 7 ingredients. You put them all together in the right quantities in the right order, and voila.
Yep. As long as you don't burn it in the end, you're good.
That's right.
That's my cooking. But and like here, for instance, I'm going to do a lot of saving. I probably have, and I mean, I've got almost a half acre. I've probably got on the property here 50 or 60 ferns that are really cool. Ferns, yeah.
Okay, yeah.
I love the look of those things. They're so cool, and I've got them, and I know how expensive they are if you go buy them. So, I'm gonna keep those around and keep those and put them in places where there's a lot of. My house had a great design 30 years ago, and we're starting to kind of see some of the method to the madness as we take the trash out, basically, and go, that was a feature over there at one point, wasn't it? You start to kind of figure stuff out a little bit.
Yeah, you gotta deconstruct it, see you got to get into what the designer had in his head when he built all this stuff up,
Yeah. And of course we're going to do it different, but it's you kind of go, oh, that's what that plan was. Okay.
Yeah.
Now I see what they had.
What were they thinking is sometimes the other,
Yeah. I had we pull it back and we'd see this pathway that had these cool, stone blocks to walk on, and it was like, that's cool. Where's it going?
Where's it going?
Who knows? So we'd start to kind of figure it out and go, oh, okay, that little sitting area over here, got it. That makes it. Where's that one going? So it was pretty crazy.
It's funny you bring up those. It's funny you bring up those ferns though, because when I was a kid, me and my dad used to. My dad made me go with him to dig up ferns out of the mountains.
Yeah.
We're walking around up there.
Yep.
We're going to dig up some of these ferns. And then vine maples too. We used to dig vine maples out of the mountains.
Yep.
And then, Dad would go get his permit or whatever to, collect, do some plant collecting,
Yep.
So he had me digging up ferns and vine maples,
Yep.
And then we pot them up, and then, on our landscape jobs, we go sell them.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
But the vine maples were the nicest because there's a difference between a collected vine maple out there in the mountains versus something that's grown in the nursery.
Yeah.
The one up in the mountains got way more character.
It does.
They're growing funky, because they're growing out in the wild. In the nursery, they're just growing straight up like a stick, straight.
Well, they've been training them that way. They want them to be because it's like fruit at the grocery store. It's got to look perfect.
Yes, yeah, exactly. But landscaping to me is a little bit different. I want some of those funky things that you can't find anywhere down at wherever. I want to be able to bring mountain hemlock in from Bend, Oregon.
Yeah.
That no one else really has. It kind of showcases our planting design specialties and other things that people don't necessarily have because you can't find these windswept looking hemlocks.
Yeah.
At the nursery because they're just growing straight up in a pot, like anything else.
Yeah, it's got that natural look to it that makes it look real and not just somebody went down to the home center and grabbed a bunch of stuff and just plopped it in the yard.
Yeah, and that's just part of what we do. I mean, that's just our style.
Yeah.
It brings some creativity even to the planting design where we've got some offbeat, unusual things that no one else has or haven't thought of, and sometimes it's going up in the woods and collecting things if you have to, but we find logs and rocks and funky things that you can't buy.
Exactly.
It's just out there in nature. And we try to bring some of that to you guys.
Yeah.
As being our clients.
Yeah, that's great design idea stuff, man. Well, thanks for coming on the show again today, Eddie. You guys, Uyeta Landscape have always just been the rock stars here in the area, and I just love bringing you on so we can talk about some of these subjects so people can have a better idea of how to tackle their spaces, or if they're in your neighborhood too, they know how to do best business with you as well.
Yeah, I mean, if you're up in we're out of Renton, but if you're close by, always call me up. You can call me, just ask me, for some help, ask me some questions. I'm happy to help.
You got it, brother. And everybody, if you want to catch Eddie out there, head to UyetaLandscape.com. That is his website with all the cool pictures and info right there.
Very good.
For Dane Botter, I'm Eric G., and you've been listening to Around the House.
Around the House with Eric G. is produced by, designed by Eric G. in association with Salem Media and distributed nationally by the Sun Broadcast Group. All rights reserved. Copyright 2020 designed by Eric G. We will be back next week. If you missed part of the show, check out the podcast of all of our shows at AroundTheHouseOnline.com. Remember, measure with a micrometer, mark with caulk, and cut with an axe. Thanks for listening to Around the House.
Hey everyone, this is Jim, producer of the Around the House Show podcast. If you're listening right now, you already know we bring you the best tips, tricks, and expert advice to fix, upgrade, and maintain everything in your home without the headaches or the huge bills. But if you're catching us on the radio or borrowing a friend's phone, you're missing out on new episodes dropping straight to your device every week. So do yourself a favor, hit pause for just a second, grab your phone, and subscribe to Around the House Show on your favorite podcast player. Whether it's Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube Music, or wherever you listen. It's completely free, and you'll never miss an episode again. Thanks for supporting the show. Now let's get back to making your house work for you.